For years, David Mann stood quietly in the shadows, the funny man behind the smiles, the loyal sidekick who kept the laughter going. But now, the truth has finally been exposed, and it's not what anyone expected. Tyler Perry, the man who built his empire on faith, moral storytelling, and church plays, is now facing a shocking revelation that could change everything. According to David Mann, it was Perry himself pulling all the strings, but not in the way we ever imagined. Buckle up, because what you're about to hear will completely alter your view of Tyler Perry. Behind the laughter, behind the ma wigs, and the powerful gospel voices we've all come to love, lies a story that's been buried for years. A story of betrayal, manipulation, and a breaking point that has finally come to light. David Mann, the gospel singer and actor who stood by Tyler Perry for over 2 decades, has now stepped forward with explosive revelations. And let's be clear, this is no ordinary Hollywood drama. This goes deeper. We're talking about spiritual conflict, broken loyalty, and secrets that could shatter the image of one of the most influential men in Black entertainment today. In this video, we're going to break down everything, from why David Mann stayed silent for so long to what finally pushed him to speak out. We'll uncover the truth of what Tyler Perry allegedly did that crossed the line, and explore the hidden tensions behind the scenes of Meet the Browns to House of Pain and beyond. And the most shocking part? The signs were there all along, hidden in plain sight. Stay tuned, because this is a story you won't want to miss. You'll be shocked at how far this has come and where it may be going. This is where things start to get interesting, so pay attention. Fans all throughout the world believe that there was a fraternity, a partnership, and an unbreakable tie before the scandal, the silence, and the breaking point. Tyler Perry and David Mann were more than simply partners. Together, they transformed family television and Black stage performances into something truly remarkable. However, how did they arrive here? It all started in the early 2000s, when Tyler Perry was using his now iconic character, Medadia, to ascend from homelessness to industry dominance. His stage performances attracted large audiences among the African-American church-going population because they were humorous, spiritual, and unvarnished. David Mann's portrayal of the endearing, humorous, and somewhat naive Mr. Brown is there in the middle of it all. The Perry universe was built on the shoulders of David and his wife, Tamela Mann. Their devotion was unwavering, their performances were touching, and their chemistry was evident. Fans grew to know them as family as much as characters. From Maida Goes to Jail to Meet the Browns, every theatrical play and show evolved beyond simple amusement. It evolved into a ministry. It turned into hope. However, the majority of individuals are unaware of this. Behind the scenes, there was a creative imbalance between David and Tyler. David was relegated to a supporting position, both on and off screen, while Perry maintained complete authority as writer, director, producer, and actor. According to those close to the projects, David and others were still bound by old contracts from their stage play days, while Perry was earning millions, agreements that purportedly restricted their rights to revenues and future project input. But David said nothing. Through it, he grinned. He continued to follow instructions. But was it fear or loyalty? And that's only the beginning, as David Mann's life was completely altered by what transpired during the Meet the Browns production, a difficult moment that made him doubt everything. However, we'll get to that in the next section, as the events that transpired on site were not included in the script. It was meant to be the pinnacle of their collaboration. Ratings for the popular television show Meet the Browns, which introduced Perry's theater characters to millions of homes, were soaring. Fans loved Mr. Brown because of his funny timing, loud suits, and off-key singing. However, David Mann wasn't laughing behind the scenes. He was actually in pain. Something changed during the 3rd season of filming, according to people close to the project. Tyler Perry, who was notorious for controlling every aspect of his sets, started excluding the cast's creative participation, particularly David's. Despite David's extensive background and deep familiarity with the Mr. According to reports, Brown's character Perry disregarded his advice and even abruptly changed some sequences, scenes David was deeply immersed in and had practiced. According to one insider, David had been really looking forward to this episode, and the scene where Mr. Brown finally shows his vulnerability reveals a genuine emotional side. It wasn't just about character development either. According to multiple close associates, Tyler started claiming credit for ideas and moments that David helped create, pushing through jokes, emotional beats, and skits that were born out of collaboration as Perry's solo vision. At the last minute, Tyler scrapped it, saying it was too deep for the character. David was devastated. David, who had been by his side from the start, said, "Man, this ain't the same energy we started with." Then came the confrontation, which is rarely discussed in public, but is now confirmed to have occurred during one tense day of shooting. David reportedly told Tyler, "You say it's about God, about the people, but now it's just about control. Now, where do I fit in?" According to witnesses, Tyler's icy and uncaring response reinforced that everything was within his creative control. "This is my vision," he remarked, adding, "If you have a problem with that, there's the door." And that was the exact moment David started to back off. The man remained faithful in public, grinning for the media and sharing behind-the-scenes giggles. But in private, the damage was done. David started to play fewer parts in Perry's more recent projects. Offers slowed, creative collaboration decreased, and his silence was deafening. However, this is where it becomes even more shocking. Tyler allegedly sidelined other people in addition to David. A closer look reveals a series of familiar faces that seem to disappear from Tyler Perry's projects, all with similar stories. David Mann's experience wasn't just a single incident. It was part of a troubling pattern that many in the entertainment industry have discussed in private, but few have dared to publicly address. Let's start with Cassie Davis, who played the tough and hilarious Aunt Bam. She was a mainstay in Perry's productions for years, from stage plays to television to media films, but she abruptly stopped appearing in projects for extended periods of time. There were rumors that this was due to creative disagreements behind the scenes, especially with Perry's tightening control over scripts and production. Some insiders claim that Cassie resisted some of the less God-honoring direction the show was going in. Does that sound familiar? Then there's Patrice Lovely, the actress who played the outrageous Hattie Mae Love. Fans loved her for her high-energy delivery and slapstick humor, but many are unaware that she also privately complained about Perry's tendency to ignore character arcs and input in favor of advancing his own artistic goals. According to a number of reports, Patrice felt used, highly visible, and never truly valued. For better or worse, Tasha Smith's fallout with Perry was more public, and she later stated in interviews that she had to fight for equal treatment and struggled to have her voice heard on set. Tasha Smith is the fan favorite, best known for her fierce portrayal of Angela in Why Did I Get Married? She once alluded to feeling constrained by Perry's hegemonic control over his actors' careers, particularly those he found. What does all of this have to do with David Mann? Easy. David Mann's long-standing silence gave Perry's empire legitimacy because he was seen as the devoted friend who never challenged Perry's leadership. But now that David is stepping back and finally speaking up, even if indirectly, the dam is starting to break. David recently discussed loyalty in Hollywood in a podcast interview, and while he did not name specific people, his remarks were clear. Loyalty without respect becomes servitude. Even the most devoted must draw a line at some point. Fans knew right away who he was referring to, and social media was ablaze with rumors. Is he referring to Tyler Perry? Was Mr. Brown treated like a clown for years and never taken seriously? Perhaps the most terrifying aspect is that some people believe this fallout may have spiritual ramifications. Few names resonate as powerfully when you think of gospel greatness as Tamela Mann. David and Tamerlan have always been deeply rooted in gospel and ministry. Some people believe David struggled internally as Perry's productions became more secular and edgy, caught between faith and friendship, loyalty and spiritual conviction. Beyond the platinum records and standing ovations, Tamela was navigating the same Hollywood tension her husband David was caught in, particularly with Tyler Perry. Many fans are unaware of how crucial Tamela was to both Perry's ascent and David's restraint. Her voice, her faith, and her authenticity have touched millions of people. Tamela, who played Cora, Mr. Brown's daughter, in almost every Perry production they were involved in, was the rock that helped David bear the emotional weight of being sidelined, while David played the silly, boisterous Mr. Brown. According to close friends of the Manns, Tamela was well aware of the tension that existed behind the scenes. She was actually concerned about Perry's direction, especially the spiritual concessions being made. Tamela reportedly became more uneasy as Perry productions started to feature more sexually suggestive content, more profanity, and less emphasis on gospel values, but she stayed silent, at least in public, out of respect for David's relationship with Perry and their long-standing dedication to the audience. But in private, Tama pushed David to put peace before fame. According to a source who worked with the couple on a gospel tour, Tamila never wanted to take down bridges, but she also didn't want to continue crossing one that was burning under their feet. It was Tama who told David, "You don't have to say it loud, but you do have to be honest with yourself," and her influence was effective. Their decision to create the Mann's reality show, their gospel albums, and Tamila's multiple award-winning singles weren't just creative pivots. Rather, David chose to keep their distance from Perry and instead concentrated on developing the Mann family brand through music, touring, and even family-based reality content that was centered around faith, laughter, and love. However, the emotional twist is that Tama and David have never publicly named Perry until now, despite their deliberate efforts to reclaim their voice away from Perry, away from uncontrollable scripts, and towards a space where their message wasn't filtered or edited. Tamila was recently asked directly during a live Q&A session with fans, "Why don't you work with Tyler Perry anymore? There are times when it's time to gracefully step away when your spirit no longer aligns with the project," she responded. Does not imply hatred, only the Manns had outgrown Perry's empire on a spiritual, emotional, and professional level, and their departure was not just a career move, it was a stand for authenticity. For years, David Mann kept it all in. He remained calm despite the contract restrictions, the silent conflicts on set, the disrespect for the creative process, and the quiet departure from Perry's productions. Fans took that as confirmation. However, David finally broke down the barriers during a recent in-depth interview on a gospel podcast called Truth Behind the Praise. To be clear, David didn't point fingers or call names, but his words were forceful, and the message was obvious when the host asked him, "Have you ever trusted someone in this industry so much?" David froze, only to feel as though they were using your faith to keep you faithful. He paused for a long moment before answering, "You know what hurts the most? It's not when you're taken advantage of by strangers. It occurs when those who uphold moral principles and speak in the name of God look you in the eye and persuade you that it is a ministry when it's actually manipulation." The studio fell silent. Within minutes, social media was ablaze as the presenter, clearly surprised, questioned, "Was this someone close to you?" David nodded and said, "This was family. I thought it was kingdom work, but later I realized I was just a piece on someone's chessboard." Fans were well aware of the person he was referring to. A new perspective was emerging on Tyler Perry, the man who created a billion-dollar media empire under the guise of Black empowerment and faith. In addition to being a visionary, he may have also employed spirituality as a means of control. What, though, was David's last straw? It wasn't money, according to people close to the Guy family. The disrespect wasn't even the problem. Perry was accused of making that promise, and then severed, which David viewed as extremely painful and intimate. This is the tale. Perry has hinted at the possibility of developing a spin-off series that would focus just on Mr. Brown back in 2017. For David, who had served as the character's focal point for more than 20 years, it was a full circle moment. David had a strong stake. He made suggestions. He started jotting down notes. In preparation for the start of production, he even made room in his calendar. However, the initiative never materialized. Even worse, months later, Perry proceeded with a totally different comedy series with a brand new ensemble that used humor and family dynamics that were comparable. No one called David. His efforts were never recognized. The worst part is that insiders claim Perry used a lot of the innovative ideas David had privately presented during meetings. The treachery was that David turned away at that point. Additionally, he stated in a recent interview that he recognized this as not being brotherhood at that very moment. This was not a ministry, it was business. Furthermore, I was really a product. What makes this even more potent is this. When David uttered these things, he wasn't upset. He had no resentment. Like someone who had lamented a friendship, he talked gently, even sadly. What really struck a chord with fans was that maturity and restraint. He had no intention of canceling anyone. He had no interest in making headlines. He was simply being honest. Gospel and entertainment circles have been buzzing ever since that episode. A few famous people have subtly praised David's bravery. Others have been quiet, probably out of fear of causing friction with Perry's enormous empire. However, supporters are voicing their opinions clearly, and thanking David for demonstrating what many others have felt. Loyalty should never be sacrificed for the sake of one's voice. Fans are curious about what will happen now that David Mann has finally spoken up. Tyler Perry has not yet responded to the indirect accusations in public. No announcements, no interviews, and no reactions on social media. However, the quiet is deafening, and sometimes silence speaks louder than words in the court of public opinion. Many think Tyler is relying on his reputation as a visionary, philanthropist, and black media pioneer, as well as his long-standing goodwill to get him through this period of scrutiny. However, the truth is that the fissures are beginning to appear. Slowly, more former partners have begun to share their own experiences. On social media, a few performers and staff members have shared ambiguous yet telling posts. They don't mention names, but the inference is obvious. It's about time people start speaking the truth. Or finally, someone said it. Fans who grew up watching the Ma, House of Pain, and Meet the Browns movies are now viewing those shows differently, with skepticism, questions, and sometimes sadness. But what about David Mann? Well, the good news is that David isn't trying to bring anyone down or harbor resentment. Choosing healing over headlines is something we rarely see in Hollywood, and he's not on a smear campaign. David and Tamela Mann have thrived since leaving Perry's shadow, and their music careers, particularly in the gospel genre, continue to flourish, with Tamela's albums topping the Billboard charts. They've started their own projects based on faith, joy, and integrity, all on their own terms, and their family brand is stronger than ever, with a fan base that values their authenticity. David was on stage with Tamela during a recent concert when she performed her powerful song, Take Me to the King. But this time, he wasn't Mr. As the song came to an end, he told the audience, "Sometimes God has to remove you from the spotlight of someone else so he can shine one on your truth." Brown, the man, the husband, the father, and the voice, was finally reclaiming his identity. The audience erupted because it was now testimony rather than just entertainment. What can we learn from this then? David Mann's quiet, devoted work behind the scenes of Tyler Perry's empire helped create an entertainment dynasty, but beneath the loyalty and laughter was a man who fought for recognition. When the respect vanished, David did what many in the industry are scared to do. He left with dignity. And now that fans around the world are listening, do you think David's silence shielded Perry for too long? Should Tyler finally address these allegations? Or is this just the start of more voices coming forward? Let us know in the comments below. He didn't scream, he didn't slander, he spoke truth gently but firmly, and he let the world see the man behind Mr. Brown. We've got more truth, more receipts, and more eye-opening stories coming your way. This has been a deep one, and we appreciate you staying tuned to the end. Whether you're a Perry supporter, a team man, or just looking for the truth, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next expose or celebrity breakdown.